Just ahead on American Black Journal, Arise Detroit gets ready for the 11th annual Neighborhoods Day. We'll find out what's planned for this year, plus new Detroit music with a message for young boys. Stay right there. American Black Journal starts now.
American Black Journal is funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta Faucets, Craft Made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. It's been a busy year for Arise Detroit. After celebrating its 10th anniversary last year, the nonprofit's work is being recognized in a community exhibit called Neighborhoods Rising at the Detroit Historical Museum. The display focuses on the people and programs that have partnered with Arise Detroit, especially for its signature event known as Neighborhoods Day. That's when thousands of people come together on the first Saturday in August for a number of activities across the city. Take a look.
For the last 10 years, we've been working with Arise Detroit. It helps teach self-respect, self-control, self-discipline, and lastly, self-defense. It brings neighbors from all over the city of Detroit together and take the hood out and put neighborhood together.
And so what we've done, we've joined in with them to do an outreach for our community here where our church is located. Because I feel it's very important that the church and the community has to reconnect. If we're going to turn our city around, if we're going to save our young people, then the church has to get out of the church and come in the streets.
It is called citizens to believe in their neighborhood, have hope again in Detroit, that they see they can come together and love one another, take out that division and its unity.
We've been part of Arise Detroit Neighborhoods Day for 3 years now. This is our third year to connect with this. And it fits perfectly with the core values and the mission of Rippling Hope. So we have been very glad to connect with Arise Detroit, because what they do, what's happening today is thousands of volunteers are working across the city.
All right, here to tell us more about this year's Neighborhoods Day is Arise Detroit's Executive Director, Luther Keith. He is joined by board member Jackie Bird, who is founder and publisher of The Hub, and Malik Belafont from Manpower in Mentoring. That's a participant in the annual event. Thanks to all of you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So you could watch in the clip there, Luther, the sort of exuberance that people have, especially like when they join in after a couple of years and they realize that this is something that's happening and that they can benefit from it in their neighborhoods. Yeah,
it's truly amazing, Steve, to see how this event has grown. This year we're being audacious enough to call it the biggest Neighborhoods Day celebration in the nation. Yeah. Because we know of no other that comes close to equaling the depth and breadth of what we do. But we've just given people a sense of hope in knowing that, as Joe's to borrow from him, we're on their side. Arise Detroit is on their side. And so we have simply reached out to them, and the people in these neighborhoods have made Arise Detroit. For all of our problems that we all know about, you know, hope is still there. And these people, hearts are still beating strong. And that's what Neighborhoods Day represents. And that's why Arise Detroit has been able to do all the things it's been able to do.
Yeah. 11 years now being commemorated at the Historical Museum. Talk Talk about that exhibit.
Right. Well, first, it's mesmerizing. And I think people are really surprised because, like Luther said, this is a really high-touch event that happens annually throughout Detroit. It has gotten, you know, a lot of notoriety over the years through media, but you don't really feel it until you see it. And I saw that myself as a board member and also as a publisher of the Hub. So the last couple of years, we've sent teams out and gone to 30 to 40 events in one day. And that's only 10% of the total events that Arise Detroit has. And so you really do get to see that spirit firsthand. And when you witness that much happening for the good of Detroit on one day, it's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. The exhibit, talk about how long people can go see that, what they'll learn about.
It's up through June 18th. We opened April 22nd. We'll make an announcement soon about where it's going to go from here because it's going to be a touring exhibit. They're going to see in pictures more than 200 photographs from people all over the city of Detroit through all 10 years. They're going to see a video presentation of Arise Detroit through the years, and including a clip from this particular show with you interviewing me. But it's up through June 18th at the Detroit Historical Museum, and you're going to see the depth and breadth of what we've been able to do. Neighborhoods Day, it's good and bad, but you can't get a sense of how big it is, as Jackie says. And what you're going to do is walk into this nearly gallery of almost 2,000 square feet of space and see laid out just some amazing pictures and photographs. And you'll notice that everybody in there is smiling. Yeah. And you're going to see tremendous diversity of black people, white people, young people, old people. So this is the reflection of all Detroit. We're in the age of the new Detroit, the old Detroit. This exhibit is about all of Detroit.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about how your mentoring program sort of figures into Neighborhoods Day.
Well, you know, we learned about Arise and the work that they did about 5 years ago. I said, well, sign me up for that. Manpower Mentoring is a nonprofit organization that actually provides mentoring services, but our goal is, or how we see it, is that mentoring cannot happen without work. So our cleanup projects, along with Arise, has to do with teaching young people how to organize the cleanup events and to coordinate efforts to knock on doors and get the neighbors involved, things of that nature. So it was just a great fit for us. This is extraordinary work that happens every year, as most people who've been involved with it. And I'm just lucky and happy to be able to work with Luther and his organization to be able to pull these things off. But
and if I may say, Steve, Malik is a perfect representation of what has made Arise Detroit. These are real Detroiters, and that's what the exhibit reflects. These are real Detroiters. They don't call press conference. They aren't going to see them at the top of the news. They really are the heart and soul of Detroit. And with all the talk about downtown and midtown, which I hope both will do very well, these folks are the heart and soul of this. And Malik and people like him are an amazing testament to the human spirit and what we have here in Detroit.
Yeah, yeah. Malik, I'm curious, what you hear from the young men, and I assume some women too, who participate in this, what do you hear back from them about what they're doing?
Every year, the feedback is just, it blows us away. And then every year, more and more young people want to be involved. A lot of these young folk end up being young people who don't get to do the summer employment. So they're not employed during the summer, they need something else to do. So we raise money to give them stipends to help them get through that 2 or 3 week period of the time frame that we conduct this activity. And the parents are just ecstatic about it. Now, you know, we sometimes get a waiting list. Hey, we want to sign up because we know you're boarding up houses, we know you're cutting grass, we know you're cleaning curbs, and I want my young man out there too.
Yeah.
And so it just, that's the kind of feedback we're getting.
Yeah. Talk about the difference between what you see in neighborhoods now when they participate in Neighborhoods Day and 11 years ago when you started this.
Well, I think we've gotten more people involved. You know, the first Neighborhoods Day in 2007, we had like 55 events all over the city. Last year we had over 300 registered events, which is going to be kind of tough to top this year. Yeah. But what we've seen, we believe, is we've seen more people wanting to get involved. You have to kind of show people what they can do so they can do more than just say, well, I'm going to call a talk show, or they don't know how to organize. They don't know. So somebody has to reach out. What we've been able to do is reach out to them and show them. Then what we do throughout the years, connect them to other organizations, connect them to funders, connect them to strategic planning, connect them to groups that can show them how to form a block club. Yeah. First, you have to light the flame. You have to light the flame and say, I want to do something. But once they say that, they say, well, how do we do it? What do we do? And that's what we've been able to do. And I think it's clear, and when you see how Neighborhoods Day has grown every year. I start getting calls in February. When is that day you guys do every year? And so, you know, there's a lot of work to do. You know, things are not perfect, but we're moving the needle in the right direction. And it takes time. We have to be patient. And so giving up is not an option. Yeah. And when I Neighborhoods Day and when you walk into, I am so inspired by the heart and soul of these folks in Detroit. Yeah.
It's also viral, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the things I've seen as I've been out and about on Neighborhoods Day is not only the events that are happening, but people coming out of their homes that see that something's going on around the corner and then taking part in it. And that has really been amazing to watch.
Yeah. I mean, you're somebody who's watched what has happened in Detroit for a long time. Mm-hmm. Talk about what you see sort of changing with regard to this idea of neighborhoods and the idea that neighborhoods and the people in them can take more responsibility, more action to try to change things.
Right. So, you know, I think to a degree, Luther had mentioned it, you know, there's some feeling of invisibility sometimes of neighborhood residents, particularly with the development that's going on. But at the same point in time, and this is the conflict, is that there's a lot of pride in, you know, local communities standing up for their neighborhood and, you know, single-handedly keeping the neighborhood going and moving in the right direction. So I think now what I find really interesting is people are really engaged. If anything, I think they want to take, you know, take hold and elevate activities so that they can benefit by neighborhood resurgence and also position their neighborhood for that resurgence. So there's a lot of adjacencies now.
Yeah. And I think the important point to remember is that all these activities are organized by the groups themselves, by the churches. Arise Detroit does not plan any of these groups. This is done by the people. So it's a very
they figure it all out.
They figure it out. It's a very empowering event to the point where people call us and say, what do you want us to do, when to do it, where to do it? I said, no, you're in charge of all that. You know, so it's a very empowering thing, and that's what we have to tell folks, that, you know, you can do this. You know, don't dismiss the power that you have to effect change, but it's got to start with action. That's what we want to do, motivate people to take action. And once you do that, you'll find a lot of people will reach out and help you. That's how we move the needle.
Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you're a great example of that yourself. I mean, somebody who worked for a long time in Detroit as a journalist and decided, here, I can go do something different that moves the needle in a really different way.
Well, it's only because of the people the good Lord sent to me. And I'm truly amazed. And one of the things you'll see in the exhibit is the little scribble-scrabble of an idea that I wrote 12 years ago with an idea for some kind of new community organization that, lo and behold, ended up becoming Arise Detroit.
Is that right?
Yeah, but it's because of the people. And I like to say, and I said this before, Arise Detroit is not an idea whose time has come. It's an idea that the people want to come to. That is what has made it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, congratulations on 11 years. People can go to the Historical Museum through the 18th to see.
Through the 18th, and they can register for Neighborhoods Day at our website, arisedetroit.org. And one thing I want to say, speaking of being remiss, I want to thank you, Steve, personally, for reaching out to us and giving us this forum, because I often say the media in all its forms is the most powerful force on the planet. And so as the work is done, the message must be communicated, and that has been a big part of our success. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Look forward to you guys coming every year.
Thank
all right.
you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks very much for being here. Coming up next, we're going to talk about using spoken word to reach young boys. But first, here's a look back at a 1991 Detroit Black Journal interview with the then new Detroit Public Schools Superintendent, Deborah McGriff.
There are so many issues that are confronting the school system these days, and a lot of new programs and new ideas that are being tossed around as well. Is there a way that you can sort of maybe prioritize perhaps the top 3 things that you want to start to work on from day one when you go into the system?
Top 3, maybe top 4 or 5.
Okay.
How about that? I think the number one thing that I'm going to promote is the whole notion of empowered schools. The notion that we want important decisions about curriculum, personnel, and budget to be made by building principals in collaboration with teachers and parents and community members. I'm also, as many people know, happen to be a great supporter of schools of choice as a school improvement initiative. I think it's extremely important that parents have their children in schools that they support, and I think it's unfortunate that we have schools in the city of Detroit that parents want to attend, we have them on waiting lists, and we haven't taken the initiative to replicate those schools. I think community confidence is another thing that I want to work on. I think the people who work in the system must promote the good things that are happening in the system, and I'll spend a lot of time on that. And if I had to pick a number 4, the final one will be to make sure that the curriculum in the Detroit Public Schools and the materials that we use are multicultural, or the word that some people prefer to use is Afrocentric, that people understand that African American history is not a sometime thing.
All right, that's quite a flashback. There's a new compilation of spoken word songs coming out this month that's geared toward young males. The CD is titled Boys Turning 13, and the lyrics deal with the issues and challenges that boys face going through puberty. The songs are written by Detroiter Matthew Jones, and they're performed by local rapper Knowledge. Both are here to talk about the project, but first, let's get a sample.
Congratulations, you have made it. Congratulations, you have turned 13. Now you can be called a teenager. You can't be called a kid anymore. You have reached your first milestone in your young life, because turning 13 has a special meaning. Being 13 means you're maturing. 13 means you are getting smarter even in the things that you do. Being 13 means you should have more responsibility in the things that you do. Being 13 means you should not act silly as kids do most of the time. Being 13 means you are respected. Being 13 means your parents will have a little bit more trust in you. Being 13 means you can do other things that other teenagers do that's just like you. Yes, turning 13 is special. Your body starts changing more. Your mind starts changing more. You don't see things the same anymore. You don't do things the same anymore. You don't wear the same kid clothes that you used to anymore. That's being 13.
All right, thanks and welcome to American Black Journal, Matthew Jones. You can't watch that and not be absolutely enraptured by the things that he's saying, and of course the rhythm in which he's saying them. But talk first about the message here. I can remember being 13, and boy, that was a great description of all the things that happened. I now have a 13-year-old. And it's really interesting to watch from the outside as that sort of replays. There's something about this age that's really critical.
Right, absolutely. And let me give you a little history on the CD. About 10 years ago, I was providing services to a 12-year-old, and his mother indicated that they were relocating to a different city. But was there anything I could give her to take with them so that he could use as he became 13? So I went home, wrote down some issues that all 12-year-old boys will experience, and came up with 14 different areas that he would experience. Found a local spoken word artist and put music to it and gave her the CD. So that he can take with him, and that becomes the foundation of what he's going to experience as a 13-year-old.
Yeah, and joining us also now is Delbert Knowledge McFarley, who we saw performing in that clip. Talk about what this sort of means to you. You're a little closer to 13 than I am. Talk about how that resonates, the things that you were talking about there.
Well, pretty much it's pretty much dead on. Being a teenager not too long ago, maybe 10 years ago, me being a teenager, I understand that I dealt with emotional struggles and finding out identity and things of that nature, and listening to these lyrics, it all made make sense.
You talked about in that particular selection the changes that happen at that age. Yes, it's overwhelming, as I remember, because it all happens so fast and it all happens together. Yes. And that's not every age that's true. Talk about 13 again. In a lot of cultures, 13 is significant. Think about the Jewish culture. That's when boys get bar mitzvahed. We don't have those sort of formal structures in African American culture, but you seem to be, I think you seem to be arguing in some ways that maybe we should. Maybe we should think of it in a more structured way.
Absolutely, and that was one of the reasons of putting the CD together, because there was a study done by Center for Disease Control that indicated that 12-year-olds experience the greatest challenge in their life. And there's also a study done by Temple University that suggests that when you're 12 and 13, the greatest challenge that you experience comes from the influence of your peers. So there's a challenging time period that most 12-year-olds don't really know about, but if you educate them and give them a foundation as what to expect, and that's what the CD addresses, the different issues that they will experience.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about the collaboration between the two of you. How did that come about?
Well, I made some phone calls and wanted to find a local rapper. Called a company and went out and heard Knowledge perform. And he came in, he interviewed, and we selected him because he seemed to resonate what we were looking for. He was creative. He was did it a cappella, so it was a good connection.
Yeah,
we went with him.
Yeah. What was your reaction when he said, "I want to have you help me with a spoken word album"?
Well, my first initial reaction, because I have a lot of nephews. I have a lot of nieces as well, but thinking about 13-year-old boys, so I have a lot of nephews, and a lot of these young guys, a lot of these young boys that I just come across just day-to-day life, they really, really look up to me. So once I was presented with the opportunity, I auditioned like how we talked about, and I was presented with it, I thought about it, and like I said, I prayed on it because I wanted to make sure, because I'm a spiritual guy, so I prayed on it. I said, is this the right thing for me to do? It makes sense. I want to talk to the younger generation. My music, outside of this, speaks about positivity, and building esteem and character. So why not?
Yeah. Your name, Knowledge,
yes, sir,
and the way you spell it, I think that's pretty cool. There's no K. It starts with now, right? Yes. Talk about how he came up with that.
Well, pretty much just exactly that. The whole just thinking about knowledge. I'm all about education and furthering what we know now and thinking about alternatives. That's all I'm about. So once I had took in consideration and registered everything about me and what I want to do with my music, why not now?
Yeah.
Why should I wait later to influence? Why should I wait later to stand? Why should I wait later to speak? I got to do it now.
Yeah. Talk about the rest of your music, the rest of your work. I'm not sure the viewers are all familiar with it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I go by the name Knowledge or Black Knowledge. Either one, I'm fine with it, as long as my name's called. But either way, but my whole goal is with my music. I've been writing music since I was about 8 years old. I'm 23 now, so I have a nice track record. I performed with some good acts like Master P. I performed in front of Master P before. I went to different auditions. I've done a lot of play with some prominent musicians. I've done some things, but my whole, really with my music, I really don't really care about the lights and the material things. I'm really more into character and what's really necessary. I don't think the new Jordans that's coming out this weekend is more necessary than you understanding that you're a true king.
Right.
And that's to sum that up. That's really what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about in the African American community the importance of that male influence over this time in boys' life. I mean, that for a lot of kids is the time you start to struggle with that. For me, it was just after I was 13 that I lost my father, and that's true for lots of young African Americans. This seems to sort of step into that void a little bit.
Absolutely, because when we realize how many African American boys who were raised in a home minus the father, minus an uncle, they need some foundation to be set. And that was one of the focuses that was important for the CD. Lay a foundation that even though your fathers may not be there, the information that you need is important.
Yeah.
It's critical that you understand who you are and what your responsibility is in the community. So making decisions, becoming more mature, those kind of things play a critical role in their decision making. Who are their friends?
Yeah.
How do you make choices? Those kind of things.
Yeah. Are you able to connect this with the places that 13-year-olds are? Schools, I would think, would be an obvious place, but there's some other.
Well, yes, we've started that. We're going to be partnering with a lot of schools locally and organizations that provide services for 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
And the message, of course, is letting them know that you are important, that you love, but you also have to be responsible.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a tricky balance, right? Getting them on that responsibility part is hard sometimes.
Right, and one of the important things I wanted to do when the CD was originally made 10 years ago, I had to come to the conclusion that I can't make the same CD.
Yeah.
So what can I do 10 years later? Well,
right.
I have to make something that connects with a 12-year-old. And what is that? That's rap and a different music set.
Yeah.
So they get
So you feel like there's a big difference between what you connect with a kid this age now and 10 years ago.
Right.
The culture has changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
The pressure is different. The dynamics of what their experience is different.
Yeah.
The trauma that they experience, all that's different than 10 years ago.
It's worse in some ways
Absolutely.
than what it was than what it was before.
Right. So we're having a listening party on June the 22nd. It's going to be at 14060 Telegraph Road. That's in Redford, Michigan, 48239. It's going to start at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8. And we are encouraging the viewing audience to come out and be a part of the experience. We're going to have fun.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants any additional information, they can call me 313-215-5944, or they can email boysturning13@gmail.com.
All right. Congratulations on the work, and thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. That's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org, and as always, you can connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.